welcome to the latest episode of Getting Ghosted. Have you ever crafted the perfect outbound campaign only to get ghosted? Well, you're not alone. In this video series, AEs and SDRs get brutally honest about sales outreach, sharing their most creative tactics that got them ghosted when they should have landed a meeting, and the unexpected approaches that actually worked. Today, delighted to be joined by Luca, who's account exec at FTAPI. Luca, welcome.
Welcome to you too. Thanks for having me.
It's great to chat again. So, Luca, let's get straight into it. Would love you to share one creative piece of outbound that should have got you a meeting, but led to you getting ghosted.
Yes, I actually have a good example on that. So we created a campaign where we took like a popular tech magazine like Wired, right? And what we did is we photoshopped the faces of the prospects that we wanted to reach on the cover. We also created some kind of like fake interview where we kind of like with them, of course, where we kind of they told us like how super successful they were by using our products and so on and so forth. And we also sent it like digitally, of course, but also to their office as well, and expected like a good response, getting meeting and stuff. But the response that we got was not literally what we expected, because we literally got contacted by their legal department and in the end got a cease and desist order, because this guy, whose face we put on the cover, was like shouting like, hey, GDPR, how can you do that, and so on and so forth. And yeah, so we didn't get a meeting, unfortunately.
I feel like that's when personalization goes too far. That reminds me of a campaign that I once did that I thought it was going to be like a slam dunk. And in hindsight, it was so stupid. Like this actually sounds like it's super relevant and a great idea. But we sent it was for targeting wine companies. There's only about 5, and we sent an empty wine bottle, but in the cork was like a USB, which we'd hope they plug into their computers, and that would give them information about the company at the time. We were like, oh, really creative. Like they work for a wine company. Here's a wine bottle. But honestly, the response was like horrendous. Like 2 people were like, why are you sending us like an empty wine bottle? Like, what a waste. And somebody was like, if you think I'm going to use a random USB and plug it into my computer when I could get like all sorts of viruses when I don't know who you are, like you've got another thing coming. So like, I think it's like sometimes the most creative ideas that you think are like really good actually can backfire.
Yeah, that's true.
So look, let's bring it to the more successful and positive stories. It'd be great to see one creative tactic that actually landed you a meeting.
Yeah, so I'm pretty proud of that one actually. So I tried to reach out to a super big company who is in insurance, so actually insurance companies, right? And I tried to get a hold of this guy, sending emails, calls, LinkedIn, whatever. No response. So at some point in time, I also checked his LinkedIn profile, and then I noticed that he had a little sentence in this talk about yourself piece of the LinkedIn profile, right? And there was written "Hic Rhodos, hic Salta." So a little explanation. So I studied history, actually, ancient history, and "Hic Rhodos, hic Salta" is from an old story from Aesop. I don't know if you know, but this guy was living like 600 years before Christ. And there was this one story where this one guy, one of these athletes, just boasting around how good he was and how far he could jump and so on and so forth. And at some point in time, like the philosophers were so annoyed that they just said like, hey, here is Rhodos, like the island, right? And then just jump. So basically, stop talking and just prove it, right? And what I then did is I just sent an email, put in the subject line, hic, name of our company, hic volare. Volare is Latin for fly, right? And basically told him like, hey, use a product and then you will fly, right? And then had a little email with a little pitch, counting on that subject line basically. And I literally got an answer within 20 minutes or something. It's like, oh my God, the best cold email I ever got. Like, really, I get hundreds of emails per day. I usually delete all of them, but this one really caught my eye. When do you have time to have a chat and something, and so on and so forth, right? I was like, okay, nice. And it actually landed us a meeting. And yeah, the deal was pretty successful. Let's say like that. And I'm pretty proud of that one.
Love that idea. I mean, that's kind of probably the first and possibly the only story of where your ancient history degree came in to help you book a.
Exactly.
Uh, I love that. Yeah, I think it just goes to show like the power of simplistic personalization and like understanding. The amount of cold emails that I get that it's just so generic, and I'm like, if they just took 3 minutes to look at my LinkedIn profile, there'll be something there, whether that's a post, whether that's something that I've got on my bio, which will make it stand out if they actually use that in the cold outreach. So again, it's a real antidote to spray and pray in that, like, sometimes we just need to step back and less is more and make the outreach more thoughtful and more personalized as well.
True.
So we're going to go into quick fire questions. So I'm going to kick off with one metric every commercial leader or AE obsesses about too much.
Honestly, number of calls. So in my opinion, like it's not a bad metric in general, don't get me wrong, right? But it's so super high focused on how many calls have you made, how many calls have you made. And in my opinion, it has to be looked in a very much more differentiated way because it's not about the number of calls that you did, but about the quality of calls, right? So the best call sessions I had, I maybe did like 10 calls or something like that. And the worst I had, I did like 60 or 70 calls, right? So what's the difference? First of all, you talk to people. So that's why the call is longer. And if you have a good pitch, a good quality, and you really are prepared in the call and something like that, it's just better, right? So you get more opportunities, more outcomes, more meetings out of the high quality calls rather than just calling for the purpose of calling, right? So yeah, that's my take on that.
What's the one outbound best practice that you think is completely overrated?
Honestly, hyper personalization in emails. Like, it kind of like taps in actually in the story of this Hic Rhodos Hic Salta I just mentioned, right? Because that's a personalization, fair enough. But when you research like 20 minutes or something like that for each prospect, just to send like a 2-minute email, 2 sentence or something like that, and the rest of the email is completely generic, first of all, the recipient completely notices. Like, honestly, it's like it kind of like gets yourself down, right? Your own standing and something like that. And furthermore, it's just not scaling, right? So first of all, be relevant. And that's the point what also worked with this Hic Rhodos Hic Salta, because like I was relevant on exactly the topic that the guy actually was caring about. I just had a little twist with this one little sentence. It took me 1 minute to look on his LinkedIn profile, or actually to notice it basically, and then make that twist, and then just be relevant. Tailor it to their core pain, right? The message that you have to send, and iterate on a value proposition. And another one, the higher you get on, or let's say on a C level, like the higher level you target, basically, the shorter you have to tell your message. Like, don't send big messages or something like that. Like, be as short as possible and as relevant as possible. That's my take on that one.
Great, yeah, definitely agree with the latter for sure. Interesting take, probably a controversial take on the personalization. I guess that's where we've got a deluge of AI tools to help with that, because I agree. I think like taking too long was a big barrier, and that's why people
Yeah.
have defaulted to, outreach at scale. But actually, if you can find a way to do that quicker, then I think that is going to become effective. But it's a good point of
Exactly.
taking too long to actually make those personalization
Exactly.
changes. What's the most embarrassing outbound tactic that you've tried that you'd never admit to your manager?
Honestly, sending these short personalized videos through LinkedIn. Like this 1-2 minutes, like, hey, my name is Luca. I tried to reach you, la 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 la. It's like, honestly, that was so embarrassing because also I know it from myself when I receive these videos. It's like, oh, it's so cringe, you know?
Did any of them land a
So,
meeting?
no, never,
No. Oh wow,
unfortunately.
never.
I don't know why. I made good videos. It never worked.
Interested. What's the wildest response a prospect has given you instead of just saying like, "No thanks, not interested"?
There's a good one. So I was calling in Germany into a big B2B company, right? Manufacturing. And it's a family-owned company. So I tried to reach C-level, and then at some point in time, I actually got the son of the CEO, right? So he had the same last name as the name of the company. And he answered. I was like, hey, nice. Yeah, I pitched him. It's like, hey, we have this product. It's super, how do you say, helping you to reach your strategic goals way faster and way more efficient. And his answer was just, who do you think you are that I discuss our strategy with you? And just hung up.
Oh, brutal, brutal.
Yes.
Brilliant. Love that. What's the one piece of advice that you would have for SDRs and A's in general when it comes to outbound?
I'd say it's 2 pieces of advice-ish, or let's say just 2 words, collaboration and challenging. So what I mean by that, first of all, collaborate. So as an SDR, as an AE, really the AE should kind of like guide the SDR on what to do, what to call, and so on and so forth, because he has a strategy of his own territory basically, and his territory plan, and he knows how he wants to reach out. So please get your SDR on the same page, right, and guide him. And then challenge each other, really. Like the SDR should also challenge the AE if that is the correct way, and the AE on the other side should also let the SDR to try it, to try his suggestions and something like that, and maybe even fall on his nose. It doesn't matter, but you have nothing to lose basically, because if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, the SDR learns something. Your how do you say, relationship gets better. And that's also key, right? Having a good relationship from an SDR and an AE with each other and working together, collaborate, challenge each other, and then it will work from itself. Because as a good team, you're successful.
So, what lead source tends to close faster and at a higher rate?
Honestly, leads from events. So because it's the power of meeting people face to face, right? And the power of having a warm entrance, and it changes everything. So you can understand more about them, more in depth. You get a personal connection, and usually they also like give you their personal details, like mobile number and so on and so forth. And it's just way easier to stay in touch then, because they also have a face, and they have the warmth, and they also see how tall you are or how small, and so on and so forth, and how you compose also in connection with other peeps at the event. And yeah, this just creates like a personal connection that really, really helps, and yeah, closes deals way faster.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Well, look, really appreciate it, Luca. Thanks so much for chatting.